Because 10 billion years' time is so fragile and so ephemeral, it arouses a bittersweet, almost heartbreaking fondness. These are the words that open each episode of Ima Soko no Iruboku, or by its westernized name, Here and There, Now and Then. Many online speculate the meaning behind 10 billion to be the age of the mysterious Lalaru, but this is actually a callback to the real world. 10 billion would have been the estimated age of the universe in 1999, the year the show was made. As for the rest of the quote, I think it acts as a perfect descriptor of the series. Bittersweet in particular is a word that comes to mind as I reflect on it, which makes it even more surprising that this show became an instant favorite for me, and I expect to rewatch it many times over. That being said, I have doubts on whether I should be openly recommending this series. It's gruesome, depressing, and very hard to watch. But even so, and even if this isn't your kind of show, I still think you should give it a try. Primarily because a show like Now and Then, Here and There is most likely never to come again within anime. The only reason it could get funded and produced in the first place is because of the influence of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Evangelion opened up the floodgates for these depressing and visceral experiences. I mean, you only need to take a look at the director Daichi Akitaro's other directorial works to realize how scarce shows like these are. It is filled to the brim with feel-good slice-of-life shows like Fruits Basket, Kami-sama Kiss, and Kodomo no Omocha. Shows meant to elicit fuzzy feelings to put you in a good mood. So it is strange to find Now and Then, Here and There on that same list. A show that seems bent on your emotional destruction that is scarce with anything resembling any of the previous shows. But what separates Now and Then, Here and There from Eva and other shows that were influenced by Eva is its focus. While Eva introduced many complex themes, unique sci-fi trappings, and new directorial styles, Now and Then, Here and There plays it very simply. Although there are a multitude of themes throughout the series, mostly surrounding humanity's darkest aspects, Now and Then, Here and There does not go into them in any great detail. As for the sci-fi trappings, there seemed to be some in the first episode, but that was a bait. After the first episode, the majority of the series' conflict is propelled by very real weaponry, like guns and knives. Our main protagonist Shu's main weapon throughout the series is a stick he picked up off a construction site. A far cry from what Shinji Ikari got. Even the process in which the series transports Shu to this bleak wasteland isn't even explained. As for the show's direction, it is impeccable and incredibly tight, but it is very conventional at times. It didn't have any of the unique or novel ideas that are characteristic of Eva. All of this amounts to an experience I can only describe as pure tragedy. By moving any attention away from being smart or cool to look at, Now and Then, Here and There crafts an experience that's only goal is to cut deep into its viewer. It doesn't want to say anything, rather it wants to elicit feelings of sorrow, pity, and fear. But I'd like to make a distinction between the tragedy depicted in this show, opposed to those in shows like Attack on Titan or Re:Zero. The tragedy depicted in those shows are really only there for shock value. The events are depicted in a very overdramatic way, and for the most part are inconsequential. The deaths in Attack on Titan give the show an air of undeserved maturity, as well as acting nothing more as a tool to propel the narrative. Re:Zero's tragedy falls into the same boat. Now and Then, Here and There, on the other hand, is uncomfortably realistic in its handling of death, torture, and rape. It doesn't hold your hand through these events. The direction and shot composition of the show is incredibly tight and conservative, but there are key times where the show switches gears entirely. During events of extreme tragedy, instead of showing it to us in graphic detail or switching shots rapidly, like in every other scene, the show seemingly freezes. We become onlookers. Shots linger for an uncomfortable amount of time. It's a feeling I can only describe as being locked into a dark room of pity and sorrow. The show doesn't need to stress the event's tragic nature, and neither can we escape it by looking away. It had already invaded our personal space. It was now our responsibility, like the characters within the show, to contextualize what just happened. One of the reasons Now and Then, Here and There is so emotionally poignant is because of the realistic nature of its violence. It is a little easier to separate yourself from violence set in an over-fantastical manner, but the violence of Now and Then, Here and There is nothing we haven't seen before. Whether it be torture, sexual assault, or murder. Often the worst things imaginable don't come from the human imagination, but rather human history. And although it does show humanity at his darkest, I think our main protagonist, Shu, is the glue needed to keep this experience together. Despite the show's maturity in almost every other aspect, Shu seems to be pulled straight from your run-of-the-mill shonen. That may be a little harsh, but Shu has no lack of optimism or endearing traits. Any break from the rhythmic tragedy of the plot is often pushed forward by Shu, and his blindingly optimistic tone.
明日勝ちゃいいんだ。明日がダメなら明後日もある。明後日がダメだっていつかは勝てる。そうそう。生きてりゃいいことだってあるさ。
It is this optimistic outlook that not only baited me into watching more, but also might have been a factor in keeping me watching. Although I may have just described a bitter experience with no sweetness at all, now and then here and there, between its moments of tragedy are moments that speak so loudly about the good of humanity, life, and hardship. It is that contrast that makes the scarce moments of optimism feel so strong. After all, the fact that this show has become an instant favorite brings up a lot of interesting questions. And I doubt this will be the last time I talk about it. But for now, should you watch now and then here and there? Yes.